I'm Abdul, 29M. I'm a paramedic, and it's a demanding but incredibly rewarding job. I'd been with my fiancée, Linda, 27F, for 3 years, and we'd been engaged for 6 months. We lived in a cozy apartment, had a shared future planned, and were just a few months away from our wedding. I loved her deeply, thought she was the one. Around February, about 5 months before our planned July wedding, I started noticing a shift in Linda. It was subtle at first. She became a little more distant, a little less engaged. Our conversations felt shallower. She was glued to her phone, often taking it with her to another room when it buzzed, or quickly flipping it over when I walked by. I, being the ever-optimistic and slightly naive partner, dismissed it. We were deep in wedding planning, which is notoriously stressful. I was also working extra shifts to save up for our dream honeymoon to Italy. It's just wedding stress, I told myself. Once the big day is over, things will go back to normal. I was wrong. So incredibly wrong. Before this, Linda and I had always been open about our phones, our lives. We didn't snoop, but there was no secrecy. Her sudden protectiveness over her device, the way she'd jump if I glanced in her direction when she was texting, definitely raised red flags. I felt her emotional withdrawal, the way she'd physically pull away when I tried to cuddle, or how she'd sigh impatiently if I asked about her day. My gut screamed that something was amiss, but my heart, so invested in our shared future, clung to the hope that it was just a phase, a temporary blip before our beautiful wedding. I kept telling myself, once we're married, once the planning is over, once we're on that honeymoon, everything will be perfect again. I poured myself into work, into saving, into making sure our future was secure. I was building a life for us, completely unaware that she was already dismantling it. The breaking point came during a seemingly ordinary dinner date at our favorite Italian restaurant. I had planned it as a nice, relaxing evening away from wedding stress. Linda was acting incredibly nervous, fiddling with her napkin, avoiding eye contact. I asked her if everything was okay. She took a deep breath, looked at me, and confessed. Her voice was quiet at first, then gained a strange, almost defiant, strength. Abdul, she began, I've been talking to someone. My college ex-boyfriend, John. My heart dropped. John. The guy she occasionally mentioned, always with a dismissive wave of her hand, saying he was just a friend or part of my past. We've been talking a lot, she continued, and it's made me realize things. About us. I felt a cold dread wash over me. Realize what, Linda? She looked away, then back at me, her eyes strangely cold. With you, Abdul, I feel like I'm floating in a kiddie pool. Safe, shallow, and boring as hell. With John, I feel like I'm in the ocean. Dangerous. Exciting. Unpredictable. I feel alive. My world shattered. Kiddie pool? Safe, shallow, boring? After 3 years, after an engagement, after all my love and commitment, I was just a boring, safe option? A consolation prize? The words cut deeper than any physical wound. They implied that our entire relationship was a fallback, a second choice. That she wished she had never left him for me. The betrayal was immense. The humiliation was crushing. I felt a wave of nausea. I stared at her, my mind reeling. The restaurant noise faded into a distant hum. My vision blurred. But in that moment of profound pain, a sudden, crystal-clear thought emerged. I am not a backup plan. Linda, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, if you feel like you're in a kiddie pool with me, then nothing is stopping you from diving into the ocean with John. But you won't be doing it from my house, or with my ring on your finger, or with my name on your wedding invitation. Her eyes widened. She looked shocked, as if she expected me to beg, to fight for her, to accept her ocean adventures while I remained her safe harbor. What are you saying? She whispered. I'm saying, I replied, standing up, that our engagement is over. Our relationship is over. Go be with your ocean. But you can't stay in my house. I want you to pack your things and be out by tomorrow morning. I placed the engagement ring, which I had taken off my finger, on the table between us. I paid the bill, walked out of the restaurant, and left her sitting there, stunned, in the middle of our favorite spot. The swiftness of it was almost a blur, but the pain was searing. The following days were a blur of emotional turmoil. I was heartbroken, angry, and utterly exhausted. I called my parents, who were incredibly supportive, furious on my behalf. Linda's parents, on the other hand, tried to intervene, calling me, insisting that Linda was just confused or stressed and that I should reconsider. I politely but firmly told them no. The hardest part was dealing with the financial implications. We had put down significant deposits for the venue, caterer, photographer, and band. I spent days on the phone, canceling everything. I lost about $8,000 in non-refundable deposits and cancellation fees. It was a huge financial hit, especially after all the extra shifts I had worked for the honeymoon. But even with the financial loss, the relief of cutting ties with a relationship built on such a fundamental lie was immense. I didn't trash-talk Linda to our mutual friends. I simply let them know that the wedding was off, and that if they wanted details, they should ask Linda about John. Word spread quickly. Reactions varied, but most of our friends, knowing my character and seeing Linda's sudden shift, sided with me. They understood why I couldn't stay with someone who viewed me as a backup plan, a safe, shallow kiddie pool. In the weeks following the breakup, I threw myself into work. Being a paramedic meant long, demanding shifts, which was a blessing in disguise. It kept my mind occupied, focused on saving lives, not on my shattered heart. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, I began to feel a sense of relief. The constant underlying stress of the relationship, the subtle anxieties I had been ignoring, had lifted. I could breathe again. I started reflecting on what I truly wanted in a partner, in a relationship. It was during this time that I met Nettie. She was a nurse from the ER where I often brought patients. We had always been friendly, professional. But after the breakup, we started talking more, sharing stories from our shifts, commiserating over the stresses of our jobs. She was kind, empathetic, incredibly smart, and had a refreshing, no-nonsense perspective on life. There was no drama, no games, just genuine connection. Our relationship blossomed slowly, organically. There was no baggage, no past drama, just two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Nettie was supportive, listened intently, and celebrated my successes. She never made me feel safe, shallow, or boring. She made me feel seen, valued, and excited about life again. The contrast between her supportive nature and Linda's previous indifference, her self-centered personal growth, was stark. As I began to heal, I found myself truly moving on from the heartbreak, not just coping, but thriving. About 6 weeks after the breakup, I learned through mutual friends that Linda had been dumped by John. Her ocean had apparently decided she wasn't worth the waves. The news brought a mix of emotions, a flicker of sadness for her, but mostly, a profound sense of vindication. Her fantasy of rekindling her college romance had crumbled, leaving her to face the consequences of her choices, alone. It was a stark reminder that you can't build happiness on someone else's heartbreak. Linda, predictably, took to social media to air her grievances. She posted cryptic messages about toxic exes and broken promises, trying to portray herself as the victim. But our mutual friends, who knew the truth, quickly called her out, subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, correcting her rewritten history. Her desperate attempts to regain my attention, to manipulate the narrative, only highlighted her instability and the reality of her situation. Meanwhile, I continued to focus on building a new life with Nettie, ignoring the online drama. On my 30th birthday, 6 months after the breakup, I was celebrating with Nettie, my friends, and family at a local brewery. The atmosphere was joyful, relaxed. Then, the doors opened, and there she was. Linda. Looking disheveled, her eyes red-rimmed, clearly having had a few too many. She marched straight towards me, pushing past people. "Abdul," she slurred, "I need to talk to you. I made a mistake. I miss you. Please, take me back." Nettie, who had been by my side, gently but firmly stepped in front of me. "Linda, he's not interested. You need to leave." Linda ignored her, her eyes fixed on me. "I know I messed up. But I love you. I want my safe kiddie pool back." Her words, intended to be a plea, only showcased her desperation and the stark contrast between her and Nettie, who stood there, calm and dignified. I looked at Linda, then at Nettie, then back at Linda. "You said I was a kiddie pool, Linda. You wanted the ocean. You got it. And now you're drowning. I deserve someone who wants the whole ocean with me, not just a shallow pool to float in when their waves get too rough." My friends and family, who knew the whole story, watched in stunned silence. Linda, finally realizing the futility of her attempt, stumbled out, defeated. After that dramatic encounter, I felt a renewed sense of clarity. I had made the right choice. I deserved someone who valued me, who chose me first, not as a backup plan or a safe harbor. I continued to build a life with Nettie. Our relationship grew stronger every day, built on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine love. We moved into a new place together, adopted a rescue dog, and started planning our real future, one where we were both fully invested, fully present. A year after our breakup, I received a long, rambling text from Linda. It was filled with apologies, regrets, and pleas for another chance. She admitted she had been wrong, that she had thrown away something real for a fantasy. She said she was in therapy, trying to understand her own patterns. I read it. I felt a pang of something, not sadness, not anger, but a quiet acknowledgement of her pain. But I chose not to respond. Her past actions had irrevocably changed our relationship. There was no going back.